Jesus provides for his children.
Jesus will provide every single day. He never fails, he makes a way. Trust in the Lord, don't be afraid. Jehovah Jireh, my help and stay.
The lilies grow, the sparrows are fed. How much more will he care for his people? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things else shall be added.
Jesus will provide every single day. He never fails, he makes a way. Trust in the Lord, don't be afraid. Jehovah Jireh, my help and stay.
Though trials come and the journey is long, the Lord is my strength, he keeps me strong. Morning by morning his mercies I see, great is his faithfulness to me.
Jesus will provide every single day. He never fails, he makes a way. Trust in the Lord, don't be afraid. Jehovah Jireh, my help and stay.
Yes, my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches in glory. Give thanks, for Jesus will provide.
Jesus will provide every single day. He never fails, he makes a way. Trust in the Lord, don't be afraid. Jehovah Jireh, my help and stay.
I have been young, now I am old. Never have I seen the righteous forsaken. Bread on the table, roof overhead. Jesus provides for his children.
Jesus will provide every single day. He never fails, he makes a way. Trust in the Lord, don't be afraid. Jehovah Jireh, my help and stay.
The lilies grow, the sparrows are fed. How much more will he care for his people? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things else shall be added.
Jesus will provide every single day. He never fails, he makes a way. Trust in the Lord, don't be afraid. Jehovah Jireh, my help and stay.
Though trials come and the journey is long, the Lord is my strength, he keeps me strong. Morning by morning his mercies I see, great is his faithfulness to me.
Jesus will provide every single day. He never fails, he makes a way. Trust in the Lord, don't be afraid. Jehovah Jireh, my help and stay.
Yes, my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches in glory. Give thanks, for Jesus will provide.
Jesus will provide every single day. He never fails.
All right, folks, it's about that time in Dominica. Welcome to the program called Civic Vibes each and every Sunday from 6 o'clock. We're doing this very motivating, very inspirational number as we get you going here this evening. Talking about Jehovah Jireh. He will provide all your needs, all my needs, according to his riches and glory.
Never have I seen the righteous.
So all of those of you who locked in, tuned in to this space at this time, welcome on board.
Jesus provides.
Welcome to the program called Civic Vibes. That program is aired each and every Sunday, as I said before, from just about that time, 6 o'clock. Not just in Dominica, but in the Eastern Caribbean in which we live. Those of you further afield, welcome on board as well.
How much more will he
As I normally say, tell Lou to tell Sue, tell Paul to tell all that the program is on.
of God
And you guys can participate each and every Sunday. We have two designated numbers to call into the program. If you want to have your views, your comments, your question aired right here based on the conversations we have been having. And so this afternoon is no different. We have a very erudite brother in the house with us, Mr. Cabral Douglas, attorney at law, a son of the soil, I must say.
come and the journey is long. The Lord is my strength, he keeps me.
So all I ask is that you keep it locked to the sport that you got.
As I see, great is his faithfulness to me.
As we'll engage Brother Douglas in just a bit
He never
on the conversations that have been plaguing us in Dominica and the region of late.
be afraid.
Read the visa restrictions by the United States and the third country deportees, we say, that Dominica and other countries have so far signed up to. And it's just a matter of they descending on our shores in pretty soon time. We started that conversation last week with Mr. Mika Jude. Much food for thought there.
His riches.
And we're going to continue on this afternoon with none other than our guest, Mr. Cabral Douglas, attorney at law.
Give thanks.
So yes, we're giving thanks each and every time.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things else shall be added. Jesus will provide.
So all those of you on the good old Facebook, good evening to you. Those on the YouTube channel, good evening to you as well.
Trust in the Lord, don't be
Please share that live information and make them know that the program is on and they can participate therein. Again, if you're just tuning in at this time, welcome on board. We're going to have a very candid conversation with Brother Cabral Douglas in just a bit
the Lord is my
as to the implications thereof of the restrictions of the visa situation in the United States and Dominica and the rest of the region, and also the deportees, that is,
he never fails.
that Dominica and other countries have signed up to
Lord, don't be
in terms of accepting them on our land.
help and stay.
That and more up next in just a bit.
Yes, my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches in glory. Give thanks. Give thanks. For Jesus, we
Just before we speak or we engage Brother Douglas here,
have been young, now I am old.
I want to excuse Mr. Alvin Thomas this evening for not being here with us tonight.
Bread,
Alvin Thomas, the co-host of this program, wherever you are listening and locked into, good evening to you, my brother.
children. Jesus will provide every single
Last night at the factory that's on Valley Road in Dominica, we had the quarterfinals really Calypso competition in Dominica, where we had 32 Calypsonians vie for that sport, read the semifinals.
How much more will he care for his people?
And so after seeing 32 performances last night, 20 emerged and 12 stayed at the factory, as it were.
Every single day, he never fails.
And the 12, I want to say congratulations to these 20 Calypsonians as well. Congratulations to the 12 who tried but did not succeed. And the 20 who made it, they were Mystery, Nashelle, the Bob, Caressa, JD, Tasha P, The Web, Checker, Royette, Observer, Abia, Reds, Lady S, Sandy, Trendsetter, Mighty D, Kalfa P, Cheku, Daddy Chess, and Sai.
Every single day.
Again, let me just run through that list of the 20 Calypsonians that made it last night and will be performing on the 31st at the semifinals. They are, one more time, Mystery, Nashelle, The Bob, Caressa, JD, Tasha P, The Web, Checker, Royette, Observer, Abia, Reds, Lady S, Sandy, Trendsetter, Mighty D, Kalfa P, Checo, Daddy Chess, and Desai. The reserves are three of them: Liberator, Shadow Flow, and Jammer B. Again, the reserves are Liberator, Shadow Flow, and Jammer B. And the reserves mean here, just in case a Calypsonian cannot participate for whatever reason, one of these reserves will fill in on the sport.
No trials come and the journey.
Again, congratulations to all of you guys who made it last night into the semifinals.
Morning, his mercies I see.
The judging pool, which I was part of,
Jesus will provide.
I think we did our best in terms of commentaries where the public is concerned so far. I've not heard, maybe in the future, but I've not heard so far in terms of that usual uproar that normally is associated at the results level whenever these competitions end. So to the chief judge, Mr. Fontaine, and the other judges, good evening to you, my friends. Job well done.
Yes, my God shall supply.
As we look forward to the semifinals come the 31st of January 2026.
In glory.
To the judges coordinator, Mrs. Mignon Shillingford Rule, that is. Good evening to you, my friend. Thank you very much. And your deputy, job well done as well. All right, folks, it's just about that time, 14 minutes going down to 15 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. And I think now is the right time so that we can open up Brother Carvel Douglas's line, as it were, and say a hi and hello to him. Brother Douglas, good evening to you, my brother. Welcome.
Thank you, Lofty, and good evening to you and all your listeners. I also want to congratulate the 20 Calypsonians that have moved forward and advanced to the semifinals. Job well done. I want to say good afternoon to all your listeners, both at home and abroad. Congratulations to the Portsmouth Town Council for executing the opening of Carnival in Portsmouth. I understand it was a very successful event, incident-free. So we're happy to see that. And let me also say to you, Lofty, congratulations to you for being nominated as the Public Relations Officer for the United Progressive Party. I haven't had an opportunity to acknowledge you publicly on that achievement, so congratulations to you. And I don't think they could have nominated a more suitable, qualified candidate for that role, given your track record in public service. And oftentimes you have been at the forefront of the communications end of things as far as making Dominicans aware of what's happening politically and in the community. So congratulations to you. I also want to acknowledge the entire executive board of the UPP, who was recently nominated, starting with Paul Blanchard, Treasurer, Heather Fidel, Secretary, Allison Peltier, Events Coordinator, Aliyah Jean-Jacques, Youth VP and Environmental Secretary, Joanne Green, Second Vice President, Charles Williams, Vice President, and of course, none other than Joshua Francis, Founder and President of the United Progressive Party. He is no stranger to politics. Of course, he is the former Member of Parliament for the Roseau South constituency, and he's no stranger to hard work, having pulled off one of the biggest upsets in electoral history in Roseau South. So I think the party is in good hands, and the future looks very bright. And you've been able to attract young people into the party. I saw that you interviewed the candidate for the Petite Savane constituency. So it's a young people thing. So we want to engage young people, a lot of young people, especially those voting for the first time. But Lofty, I have to ask you this before we even get started. The big question on people's mind in terms of this new political party, and I received it from across the board. Dominica has traditionally been a two-party state. You've had third political parties emerge. For example, you've had the Dominica Liberation Movement. You've had Dem Lab. At one stage in the 90s, you saw the Freedom Party merge or splinter off and form the United Workers' Party. And then you had the Dominica Labour Party merge with the Freedom Party. And then since then, we've had a two-party situation in Dominica. So why do you feel the need at this time for a third political party in Dominica? That's the question I've been receiving a lot.
All right. Well, Cabral, yeah, first and foremost, in terms of a response to you and to the many persons who have been inquiring in that department, let me preface this answer by saying that we must recognize that Dominica, we are still a democratic country. And so once we are still a democratic country, then we are used to being governed by the democratic principles. And so with that, part of the tenets of a democracy is that one is free or supposed to be free to align themselves with any political party, any religious organizations, grouping whatsoever, without fear, without hindrance, without, headache or hassle from any other person or grouping. And so on that note, let me say that the United Progressive Party, as you said, is another political party registered in Dominica, is the youngest party. And when heads like mine and others came around and looked at the political landscape in Dominica, we saw the need to bring about, or to birth, as it were, that other political party, in that we have been seeing the political parties that have been on the scene for some time and what they have been doing in terms of their output or the execution in terms of making Dominicans' lives better. And so we thank them for their work in that regard, but with fresh minds, with a new group, a new political party like the UPP, there's always this freshness in the atmosphere.
Absolutely.
And so, for example, with the Dominica Labour Party has been in power for the past 25 years, we are seeing in real time now the level of stagnancy that the Dominica Labour Party has brought Dominica into. They are basically at a stalemate now. They can do no more in terms of good for and on behalf of the Dominican public. The United Workers' Party was there from the year 1995 to 2000. Since then, they were booted out of office, and they have been in opposition from since that time. Have been struggling as a party to get up and about in terms of governing of this country. And so that is why we saw the need at the UPP to birth this party to help restore what we once prided ourselves as a country in terms of good governance, in terms of the welfare of Dominicans by and large. And let me say right there that we are prepared. We are prepared to work with any political party, any organizations in the opposition force in Dominica to help, see our realities and dreams and aspirations come to fruition. And so we are right there as this third or even fourth, because there's this Freedom Party as well, as this party to sort of help channel things in the right direction, especially where the economy, where the social fabric of society is concerned, and just help restore and salvage what is left of our country. So those people out there who have this question in their mind, we thank them for that, but we're asking them now an open plea to come and inquire what UPP has to offer, and they may just be so surprised that they may want to join on that bandwagon and help make Dominica a much better place.
Well, that sounded like a true professional public relations officer response. So well done, Lofty. Now, the follow-up to that, of course, which is coming on the minds of Dominicans, is why not join forces with the establishment UWP for the purpose of removing this Dominica Labour Party? That's the other question that I've been receiving from persons when we discuss this new third political party. Why not join forces with the United Workers' Party?
Well, as I said before, maybe you missed it, but we, Joshua, the leadership of the UPP, have stated publicly already, and I will repeat it again as PR of this organization. We are prepared.
The more you repeat it, the better, because we got to put these matters to rest.
Yeah, we are prepared to work with any and all political parties in opposition in Dominica to help restore and salvage what is left of our country. At the end of the day, a political party is registered to run for political office. So if it means that the UPP can boost itself, can pride itself in recruiting a number of candidates across the length and breadth of this country to go solo, as it were, we never know. Politics is something that is always evolving. So God forbid UWP is stuck in that mode that they have been for some years now and cannot get out of that quagmire, as it were. Then the UPP was built for that reason, to work with Freedom Party, to work with other parties. But as I said before, just in case there's this sort of avenue or atmosphere that is created in the political arena where the opposition forces are concerned, UPP is willing, ready, available to join with these other forces to make it happen for and on behalf of the people.
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of people don't know what the UPP stands for in terms of its political, ideological, and philosophical foundations, because it's a new party. So I think it'll be useful for the listeners, for Dominicans, for the youth of Dominica, to just give us some sort of synopsis or some sort of summary of what it is that the UPP actually stands for.
Well, the UPP, in terms of acronym, it is the United Progressive Party. That is the UPP. That's what it really stands for. But in terms of the ideologies and philosophies of the party, in a nutshell, that is the party that will be there to help rescue and restore Dominica in terms of the economy, in terms of the social ills, and everything and anything that is affecting Dominica in the negative, and also to help push what is good in terms of Dominica, what we have been enjoying. We have a website whereby it is www.3ws, that is uppdominica.com. Again, it is www.UPP, United Progressive Party, Dominica.com. You can go there and read for yourself all the details now of that party. And I know by the time you may be halfway reading that, you will want to inquire some more and sign up in terms of you being an active member of that political party.
Well, I would encourage all Dominicans listening to this program to log on to the website. It's an interactive website. We want to hear from you, especially the young people of Dominica. We want to know what your concerns are. We want to know what your vision for the future of Dominica is. We want to engage you. We have modern technology. The website is still being developed. More policies and programs will be released as time goes on. But of course, we need the input of the people. We need the input of the youth. We want to know what your aspirations are, what your plans are, where you feel that this government is falling short in terms of facilitating you achieving those objectives. And so we need to reach out. So this is a program where we want to reach out to people, even those in the diaspora. I myself have been involved in the UPP. I've been nominated as the international secretary. I've been in touch with people overseas in the diaspora, talking to them about building a database so that we can reach out to qualified Dominicans. One of the things about Dominic, we have so many qualified people in America and other countries, qualified in various fields of study, qualified in math and science, engineering and medicine, and we want to engage those people, and we want to create an avenue for those people to return to Dominica and help build the country and go back to creating the enabling environment for them to invest with confidence and use that human resource capacity, because the country will only be built by Dominicans themselves. So that human resource capacity to come back to Dominica and to contribute to its development. Would you agree with that, Lofty, in terms of engaging the international Dominicans and the diaspora?
Yeah, a matter of fact, you said it right, Cabral, in that there are a number of Dominicans. Some people even presume that there are more Dominicans living outside of Dominica than those on the land itself. And so you, as the international liaison officer, as it were, of the United Progressive Party, we know that you have been and will continue to do a very good job in terms of being the voice out there for the United Progressive Party / Dominica by extension, to sort of help restore, as I said, Dominica to where, you know, we once enjoyed this beautiful land.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with that being said, for those that are just coming into contact with the UPP and its philosophies for the first time, we need your help. So let's get involved. Log on to the website. The leader of the party is none other than Joshua Francis, who is responsible for creating the brainchild of this organization, a successful politician, an attorney at law in his own right. He's no stranger to representation. He represents people in the magistrate and the High Court of Dominica. He represents people in the constituency of Roseau South as his former MP, presiding over the biggest electoral upset over Ambrose George in 2014. So he's no stranger. He's a people person. So feel free to drop Joshua Francis a line if you have any legal issues. He's not just there for your vote. Those of you who have questions about registering to vote, you can contact myself, you can contact Loftus Durant, you can contact Joshua Francis to answer any questions you have about registering to vote, especially those of you who haven't registered yet. Because in order to participate in the electoral process, you must be registered to vote. So contact Joshua Francis at Joshua Francis Law Offices in the center of Roseau, and we can assist you in terms of making sure you have the correct documentation to be registered to vote and to engage in the electoral process. So Lofty, how are we going in terms of this whole voter re-registration drive as far as the UPP is concerned?
Well, it's a registration drive, but the powers that we call it a confirmation exercise. So I'll stick to what it is being called.
Okay.
We wanted a re-registration whereby we would want everybody, would have really liked everybody to start fresh, as it were. But the powers that be did not see it so. And so what has been enacted as law is the confirmation drive, whereby persons who are on this very bloated list, 72,000 and counting, in order for you to remain on that list, you would have to bring in an ID, a driver's license, a passport, and go to one of the confirmation centers around the country and basically talk to an enumerator there. And that enumerator will take you through the process of confirmation.
Absolutely. So elections, I mean, election can be called at any time. We know that. We just saw that Mia Motley has rung the bell in Barbados. We saw some electoral upsets in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, also in Trinidad and Tobago. And so with everything that's going on politically within the region, our main concern is to see that Dominica gets proper representation at the community level. We're in discussions with individuals on the ground in order to present candidates, qualified, suitable candidates. But right now, the main preoccupation has got to be to make sure that Dominicans that are eligible to vote are confirmed on the voters list, because without that, it'll be an exercise in futility. So I cannot overstate, we cannot emphasize too much. We cannot overemphasize, in other words, the importance of re-registering and confirming yourself on the voters list. There's absolutely no excuse not to have done so when you think about where we are in the electoral cycle. And if you have any issues, any doubts, any concerns whatsoever, you contact the United Progressive Party. We have a website. You can leave a comment on the website. You can reach out to any of our individuals who are actively out on the ground and are there to assist you.
Yeah, indeed. And let me just give the listeners and viewers as well an idea of the work that is ongoing on the ground as we speak, where the United Progressive Party is concerned. I think, well, 2 weeks ago, we were at the Kalinago territory, where we had a public meeting with the indigenous people up there. A number of them turned out in the numbers. They listened to the messages there from Joshua Francis and also the other persons who spoke, myself included. It was well represented, the meeting, and we are prepared to go around the country with that kind of message, that kind of groundwork that is needed, as I said before, to sort of give Dominica that hope that a number of Dominicans has lost. We are prepared to do that sort of groundwork, that ground game, that house to house, that pressing of flesh together with one another, so that this sort of enthusiasm can once again be built in Dominicans. And so whenever the next general elections is held, then the opposition forces alongside UPP will be successful. Talking about that, you mentioned the work, the very hard work of Joshua Francis, and it would be remiss of me if I did not, commend him publicly as well. The Joshua Francis that I know, you mentioned some of his achievements so far in terms of pulling off the biggest upset in Dominica political history, where he unseated Ambrose George, a man who was, by all stretch, all means, was very unbeatable in the Newtown area, in the Roseau South area. And Mr. Francis, through his hard work with his team members, then pulled it off. And so he's coming in UPP with that track record of hard work. And I can tell you, Joshua is a very hard worker. When I am tired and I don't have the energy, he gives me that impetus to go. He gives us that impetus to go. So I want to commend him on that regard, or in that regard. And trust me, with he being there as one of the stabilizing force or stabilizing factor in the opposition force, that is, we are destined to be victorious.
Well, absolutely. And, when you talk about leadership, one of the themes in recent elections was leadership is everything. Leadership matters. And we have a leader in Joshua Francis that has all the credentials and qualifications of a leader. Not only is he highly educated, a qualified attorney at law, but he's also a people person. He is somebody that takes an interest in the welfare of the individuals. It's not something where he's looking for something. He's looking to extend himself so that individual Dominicans can achieve their goals and their aspirations. And for that, you have to recognize quality leadership. He's a hands-on leader. He's on the ground. He will visit you at your home and wherever you are. And he's an inspirational leader. Like Lofty just said, he inspires Lofty into action. So that's what you need in a leader. A leader has to move you to be able to inspire you to take action to bring about the change. The leader is not going to bring about the change. The people of Dominica are the ones that have to bring about the change. The leader is there to inspire the nation, inspire the Dominicans to take action to move the country forward. And a Kalinago by birth, a lawyer, an educated man, a people's man, a former member of parliament, and I'm saying the next prime minister of Dominica, Joshua Francis. And so we're inviting you to come on board, get to know the candidates, get to know the leadership, and we take it one step at a time. But most importantly, we must ensure that Dominicans are confirmed, because that right now is the most important thing that we can impart on the people of Dominica.
True. And talking about that, there's a meeting, another public meeting soon to get on the ground in somewhere in the Roseau North constituency. The exact location has not been identified as yet, but most likely sometime the later part of this week or early next week, the UPP will be having some sort of engagement with the people on the ground as the work continues to spread the message.
And I saw that you had a young man who has come to the party. He voluntarily came and put himself forward as a candidate for Petit Savan. Can you tell the listeners a little something about our new candidate?
All right. Well, Mr. Lemuel Corriette, he's a very industrious young man based on what I heard from him so far. He's a physiotherapist by profession. And we all know what a physiotherapist, or should know what a physiotherapist is involved in, is in terms of helping one who is sick, help them get back on their feet after major sickness. And so with he having that skills, we need people like that to help Dominica now as a country get back on its feet. Dominica has been sick, is still sick for some time. And with people like Corey coming forward, yourself, Gabriel Douglas, myself, and others, we will see that sort of resuscitation, as it were, where the country now is concerned. He's a very industrious young man, as I said, hardworking, he's honest, he's humble. And I think with we working with him on the ground, the Petit Savant people will have no choice but to put their confidence in Mr. Corriott in terms of their representative whenever the next election is called.
And he's a very young man, I understand. He looks very young in the photographs.
Yes, he's under 40. He's under 40.
He's under 40. So we're calling on the young people of Dominica, especially the under 40s. As a matter of fact, we would like to hear from the young people of Dominica, the students of Dominica, those voting for the first time, those that are looking towards the future to build a foundation. And what do you see as the government's role in assisting you in building that foundation where you could have a successful life in Dominica, where you could earn a decent income in Dominica, where you can build a house for your family in Dominica, where you can have the opportunities that so many Dominicans are leaving and going overseas to embrace, to bring them home to Dominica, whether it's in sports, whether it's in culture, whether it's in art, if you're working with your hands, you know, I think that a lot of opportunities exist within the space of the trades, for example, electricians, carpentry, you know, steel work. We have a lot of building projects in Dominica. So I think we got to look more towards vocational training as well and find out where the needs are in terms of the employment market to put these young people to work. And I saw that you, Lofty, you were holding a workshop recently teaching young people the trade of electronics, of how to fix electronic devices and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and how that's going?
Well, for those people who know me, I do home appliances repair. So whatever your appliances is at your home that is not working, refrigerators, washing machines, whatever it is, that is where my God-given gift is. And so I tend now to pass that on to other young people, especially people who are in need of a job where self-employment is concerned. It has been very profitable for me. And so I don't want to be selfish about it. And that is why I make every opportunity to train young men, give them that helping hand, especially in that area. But the specific project you were talking about is where I engage in Dr. Thompson Fontaine's constituency, that is in the Riviera Civic area, Grand Fort area, where Dr. Thompson Fontaine asked me to come and share my skills there with a number of young men and women in terms of electricity, that profession. And so I did that, and the young men and women, they were very, very impressed. And I can tell you, based on that, in terms of their feedback, something good will come out of at least the information that I passed on to them.
So we're interested in training young people, equipping young people with the tools that they can go out and create a life for themselves, create opportunities for themselves. So that's what we've been doing. We've been on the ground doing this. And it's not simply a matter of sitting back and waiting for elections. We have committed individuals that have been on the ground assisting young people so that they can improve and enhance their opportunities. Once you develop these skills, working with electricity, working with carpentry, working with your hands to build Dominica, these are the trades, for example, where I am, that are earning the big income now. It's no longer about medicine and these areas, these traditional areas of study. It's about the tradespeople developing unique skills that are sometimes overlooked. But we need to bring that back. We need to bring back vocational training to young men and women so that they can develop the skills needed in the economy. So we got to be specific about what are the skills needed in the economy, as opposed to what are the traditional skills that were needed 20, 30 years ago. So we are at the forefront. We're on the cutting edge. We believe that we need to prepare the youth for the future by taking advantage of the opportunities that exist and creating new opportunities as time goes on. And you've just heard a perfect example of that by our public relations officer, Loftus Durant. And we continue to do that and encourage Dominicans and create organizations and institutions that develop young people, because we understand that it's young people of Dominica that are going to determine the future of Dominica. And we need to put them to work. We need to put them in a position to create wealth for themselves and wealth for the nation, so that money could be circulating in the economy. And that is the hallmark of the UPP. And that is the difference between the UPP and the other existing political parties out there. We're in the ground, we're actually willing to do the work, and there's a track record. You can look at the track record. The individuals that I've spoken about tonight do not need to be involved in politics. They've had success within their own lane, and they're quite comfortable. However, they're patriots. They feel strongly about Dominica. They feel strongly about the future development of Dominica, and it's an all-embracing exercise. We don't care what part of Dominica you come from. We don't care who your parents are. We don't care what your political allegiance are. Come and have a conversation with members of the UPP so we can engage you and find ways to enhance and develop your future prospects in Dominica.
Yeah, Cabral, and just to alert the listeners, the viewers who are there, we have not even started the conversation that we are tipped to have tonight just yet. Yeah? So we'll spend the next maybe 15 minutes on that, and we'll go into the real conversation, read the visa restrictions and other matters at the 7 o'clock hour. But just to add to what you're saying there, though, do you know how empowering it is, Cabral, that a young man, a young woman can earn their own money and not having to beg, not having to be belittled, not having to genuflect, as it were, at the feet of a politician or any other body in this country? That is what we are looking forward to help restore that kind of situation where persons can feel once again they are empowered to go out there and work and provide for themselves, provide for their family, provide for community, provide for country. And it is so belittling that you have big men, big women in this country who, under this Labour Party, after 25 years, cannot afford to build a house for themselves, cannot afford to buy food for their family, cannot afford to maintain their family in terms of the health expense, the entertainment expenses, the whatever it is. And so that is what we are saying. We need some sort of breath of fresh air in the atmosphere to re-inject or reinstill, as it were, that pride, that sort of holding your nose up when you walk. Because we were there as a people, but we saw the Dominica Labour Party through its, sort of mismanagement of the country. The young people in particular that we're making this special appeal to tonight. We need them to sort of make that 180 turn, realize that there's hope. There is still hope in that country. And by joining forces with UPP and the other opposition forces in Dominica, that hope can be restored. That hope can be had once again. And so that is what we are trying now to instill in these young people. Hey, don't give up. Don't give up, because we when we go outside there, Cabral, when we meet young people, when we meet people in general on the streets, at their homes, in the corners, in the bars, under the trees, we get that sort of hopelessness coming through. And so a country cannot be so helpless through its greatest resource, which is the human resource. We are seeing Dominicans are prepared to leave Dominica in droves. Some have already left in droves. A matter of fact, some of the Dominicans watching us here tonight live on the feed, and they're out of Dominica. That and some of the other reasons are why they are out. A lot of them would like to come back home to help their families, to help their country grow better. But at the end of the day, if they come back, what are they coming back to? And so that is the country in which we are proposing to Dominicans out there. Dominica is a blessed country. Dominica has the resources. Dominica has the capabilities. Dominica have what it takes to be the beacon in the Caribbean once more, where food security is concerned. We have all the natural attributes that God gave us to basically do those things and more. But at the end of the day, the proper management of these resources must be centered, must be focused. And that is why we are here as a team now trying to get rid of that cancer, as it were, that has been plaguing Dominica for some time.
Yes, so what I get from what you're saying, Lofty, is that we're aiming to empower the individual.
Very well, very well.
Take control, to retake control of his life economically, as opposed to depending on the government for sustenance, and utilizing his own intellect and his own skills and his own hard work within a framework where the government is supportive and providing the opportunity to empower individuals to succeed and to invite Dominicans from overseas to come back home and be part of the process.
True.
And this is necessary, especially now, because of the fact that it's difficult because of the practices of this government. They've made it difficult for Dominicans to travel. Dominicans have difficulty traveling to the United States as a result of the policies of this government. Dominicans now have difficulties traveling to England as a result of the policies of this government. And Dominicans in the future will have trouble traveling to Europe as a result of the policies of this government. So this government's policies has not only made life economically worse and made individuals more dependent, but they've made it more difficult for them to seek greener pastures overseas because of the visa restrictions that have been placed on them, and because of the fact that they've mismanaged the economy. True. So now it's really a time where Dominica has to make a decision. Do we continue to go down the road, which has proven itself to be a slippery slope, or do we take pause and reimagine what a new Dominica, empowering individuals, could look like going into the next few years, going into the next 5 years, let's say?
Yeah, indeed. Cabral, well said. Thank you very much. Let's take that much needed break now, play a song of our brother Nasir Fontaine, who stood and continued to stand in defense of country. Again, we want to say compliments and kudos to Dr. I.P. Pascal, Joshua Francis himself, Nasir Fontaine, and the other Dominicans who continue to sound the alarm where the environment is concerned this time. So let's take a track from Nasir Fontaine entitled New Song, and we'll be back in just a bit to start the conversation in earnesty. Let's do this. We'll be back.
Come down to the river.
Let's take it from the very, very top, right here. This one is entitled A New Song.
Come down to the rivers, lay down your burden, walk away and sing in a new.
Can you imagine a new Dominica as well?
Come to Mount Zion,
Brother Nasir Fontaine, good evening to you, my bro. Dominica's true icon. Let me say a special greetings and welcome to all of you locked into that space at this time. Indira, Telemark, good evening to you. Mali, Australia as well. Owen Prosper, Dorival, Drago, good evening to you, my brother D. Rosa Robinson, you're there. Anna Thomas, you're also there. Simeon George, Bernadette Myla, Viva, Mamo, Ezra, Winston, Sandra, Shillingford. Brother Ferdinand Lawrence, you're also there. Priscilla, the gallery, Carol, Alcide, Ted Lewis. Shara, Tiana Georges, you're there as well. Margaret, good evening to you, my friend. That is Margaret Wallace. Helena John Ruston, good evening to you. Everlasting Peter, Gwen F. Latouche. Patricia Fontaine, Veronica Pascal, Jane Bernard, Yasef Francis, and more. Those of you who may be looking on at this time or listening and your name doesn't show up here, good evening to you as well. I know my mom is normally there. Good evening to you, Mom. She always tells me the week I'm looking, I'm listening. Huh? So in case you're tuning in at this time, good evening to you. We have just been talking to Mr. Cabral Douglas, recent issues, the UPP and the UWP and opposition forces. What can be done to resolve and demonstrate. But yes, we are going to continue to talk about the visa ban on Dominica and the region, at least some of the countries in the region. And this document that Roosevelt's carried, Gaston Brown, Mr. Vincent Lucia, I forget his name now, JPR, have already signed St. Kitts as well, I'm hearing. Where they have already signed this memorandum of understanding with the President of the United States, Mr. John Trump, whereby they have agreed in principle, that is, to accept deportees from the United States into various jurisdictions. And we, Cabral Douglas and myself, and you as well in terms of your comments, will be exploring these and more. Our guest here, Brother Cabral Douglas, is out somewhere in the international community. I can tell you he's some hours away from us. And in his neck of the wood, it's already, what, minutes to 9 in the morning a.m. And so we appreciate him for making that all-important sacrifice to us. Kathy Seraphine Clyde Gregor, good evening to you. All right, Dominica, that's it. It's already 4 minutes to the good old hour of 7 o'clock. And yes, we're going to start that all-important conversation now with our brother Cabral Douglas with the topics mentioned before and more. Again, Brother Douglas, good evening to you again and welcome.
Hello?
Are you there?
Okay, just give me 5 minutes.
All right, no problem. We'll give you that. We'll continue to ask you in the meantime. Yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
Come down to the rivers, lay down your burden, walk away and singing a new song, sing a brand new song. Come to Mount Zion, just lay down your burdens, walk away and singing a new song, sing a brand new song. I know your burden feels so heavy, carry no more. And yet here comes another hurt, higher than the one before. And I know the road is short, the broken road. I know you're not, but you there is the one solution. Come down to the river, down your burdens, walk away. I'm singing a new song, sing a brand new song. Come to Mount Zion, and heaven, down your burdens. 'Cause you've been burdened for much too long. Burning stuff, the road is deep, and there's no rest for weary feet. Earth comes another stumbling block.
All right, folks, let's see if we can reconnect with our brother here as we continue in here. Brother Douglas, are you back with us?
Yes, sir. Thanks for holding. I appreciate that.
Well, no problem.
So-
Thanks to the people for waiting as well.
And shout out to Nacio Fountain, who's taken a stand in the environmental degradation of Dominica. And I think he's been an inspiration to many for his illustrious career as a global icon in the reggae space. So good evening to you, Nacio, if you're listening.
Yes, indeed. All right, Cabral, let us start here in terms of what we have to speak to this evening in terms of the visa restrictions, the visa ban, as it were, on Dominicans and some of our people in the region. How and where do you want to start in terms of your commentary this evening?
Well, I mean, we have to look at this. We have to look at this from a broad perspective, although
I would just ask of you to just position a little more in the frame, please. You're out of frame.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. That looks more like it. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. I would say that we need to look at this as in context. Okay. What has happened with the visa ban? The government of Dominica has to be more transparent in terms of giving us the details of how we arrived in this situation. What we know so far is that it has to do with the lack of a residency requirement in the Citizenship by Investment Program. Okay, so as a result of that, the officials in the United States, the immigration officials, are not confident that Dominica passport holders are who they say they are, and they could therefore be manipulating the system for nefarious reasons. So that is the issue. Now, recently the Prime Minister has announced that there's been a collaboration within the OECS on a framework for citizenship by investment applications, which now include a residency requirement. So if that is the issue, then why do we have this restriction in place? If, in fact, it was the residency requirement that was the problem. I understand from what the Prime Minister has said that this problem has been addressed. I'm not sure if there's been any applicants to the Citizenship by Investment Program that have been required to come to Dominica to reside as part of their application process. So we would need to understand this more from the point of view of the government, because one day they say one thing and the next day they say something else. So there's been a lack of clarity, you know. I understand also that there's been a regional group of negotiators that are traveling to Washington to try and hammer out some sort of reprieve on this restriction. So we need to see how that develops as well. But I understand that the program is up for review within 90 days. So there's a lot of moving parts. Okay, there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of contradictions and misinformation. So I think we need to start with what is the actual issue, and to your understanding, what do you think the issue at the core really is, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, indeed. You spoke about being transparent and giving much more details to the people of Dominica in that regard, and the people of the region through the mouths and lens of the other prime ministers. How important it is, Brother Douglas, in terms of the transparency aspect where governance of a country is concerned? How important a factor that is?
Well, it's extremely important because it gives the citizens of the country the opportunity to be a part of the process. It gives the citizens of the an opportunity to engage and to really appreciate what are the factors, what are the issues that need to be addressed. Most Dominicans who buy citizenship by investment passports up until this point never ever come to Dominica. They don't know most of them don't know where Dominica is on a map. They don't understand the history of Dominica. They don't know any Dominicans. They're simply purchasing Dominican passports as a means of visa-free entry into third-party countries. Now, if the government of Dominica is serious about selling passports to third-party individuals that have no connection to Dominica, I would have thought that the least they could have done from the outset is require those individuals to come to Dominica, buy a ticket, come to Dominica, reside in Dominica, get to know some Dominicans, right? And then eventually you could become a citizen of Dominica. But it's actually the European Commission that has suggested that persons applying for Dominican passports should have a residency requirement to come to Dominica. So we have actually, this government, I should say, not necessarily we, but this government and those that have voted for it, has lowered the bar in terms of what it actually means to be a Dominican. Anybody can be a Dominican. As long as you have $100,000, you can be a Dominican. You don't have to know any Dominicans. You don't have to visit Dominica. You can just make an application and somebody will send you a Dominican passport. Now, I don't think that's what the founding fathers had in mind when they fought for independence. You know, of course, my father was a part of that independence struggle. They felt that we needed to be autonomous and govern ourselves and make our own decisions and control our own destiny. And Dominica was born, and the national flag was designed by Alwyn Bully. And there was a certain pride and a certain confidence in that. It meant something to be a Dominican. Now, this government has totally destroyed the soul of what it means to be a Dominican by handing out passports to anybody, any Tom, Dick, and Harry, and assigning third parties to do due diligence on them. It's not a matter of due diligence. It's a matter of the soul of Dominica. What is a Dominican? What does it mean to be a Dominican? Where's your pride? Where's your dignity? You know, when that flag is raised, what does that mean to you? right? It doesn't mean anything to these people because they've never been to Dominica. And this government hasn't imposed any requirement for them to come to Dominica. They've simply done it to facilitate their own personal financial gain. And most of the monies, as you know, as Lennox Linton has pointed out, there's currently a matter in the court to address this, never arrives in the treasury of Dominica. So if you're doing this, you're saying to build up the resources financially of Dominica, then why don't you require the funds to enter the treasury of Dominica? Why isn't there any parliamentary oversight? These are the issues that the foreign powers are concerned about. But it's ironic that it took foreigners to realize that these problems are systemic and are unsustainable, and unless they're amended, they're not going to allow Dominicans to enter their countries visa-free anymore. So that's extraordinary. And any government that has presided over this type of recklessness for so long has lost the moral authority to continue to govern. They got Dominica into this situation, and certainly they're not going to get Dominica out of it. You need a fresh new set of individuals who love the country, who understand what it means and have pride in the country and the citizenship of the country to come in and fix this problem. But this government is not going to fix the problem that they themselves have created. So that's pretty much in a nutshell where I stand on that issue.
Yeah. And just to add to what you're saying, but before I add, let me shout out a number of people who are on the YouTube channel as well. When we were on this topic of the brother from Petit Savan, the candidate that is for the United Progressive Party, someone is writing here that pertaining to him, he's the new candidate and he brings these grassroots vibes to the political arena in Dominica. And someone is writing here as well, transparency in governance limits speculations by citizens or anyone for that matter. So these are some of the comments here on the YouTube aspect of things. But just to continue on where you left off, Cabral, in terms of the whole governance situation, the government of the day would want us to believe that this thing just fell from the sky, and we in Dominica, we are experiencing the hardship today imposed on us by Europe and other countries, where we are on the shorter end of the stick in terms of the traveling accommodations we can make to do business or for vacation or whatever it is. I remember clearly a number of journalists, both local, regional, and international for that regard. They were speaking to us, they were sounding the alarm of the programs in the region and Dominica, whereby they were basically telling us what is to come. And so we are where we are today because of the mismanagement of the CBI program in Dominica and the other jurisdiction, because of this recklessness by these governments. And so it is it is nothing new to be experiencing what we're going on today. A matter of fact, I spoke to a number of journalists. They are from this OCRRP group, OCCRP group, whereby they came together and they were basically tracking down going through the money trail, as it were, a number of criminals, a number of crooks in possession of not just Dominica's document, what we call the passport, other countries. And they basically was telling us, that is what is afoot if you guys don't put your house or houses in order. And so having the government now come and sort of looking for sympathy now, it really and truly doesn't cut it. Because we were forewarned.
We were forewarned, and most of the proceeds are unaccounted for, and that comes back to the question of transparency. So what the government has done is they said, well, look, we're building an airport. Look, we're building a marina. So therefore, the program is successful. But where's the transparency on the airport? How much is the airport costing to build? Do we have a number on that?
There was this $1.3 billion when that project started, but as to where it's now, at least there's no transparency in that regard.
Okay, so how much have we spent of the 1.3 billion to date? Are we under budget? Are we over budget? what's happening with the actual budget of this project in terms of where we are at currently, given the fact that work has been ongoing for so long?
Again, we have no clue in Dominica. Matter of fact, Roosevelt Skerritt, he chooses not to give this kind of in-depth details when he have what he calls his press conferences in Dominica. So we really don't know where we are in terms of the money that is associated with that project.
So let's think about how absurd a situation that actually is. We say that the airport costs $1.3 billion. How do we know it costs $1.3? Have we seen any tender documents showing how the $1.3 billion is supposed to be spent? Have we seen any tender documents?
I have not seen.
So the Parliament of Dominica has never sat to review the tender documents to determine what is the cost of the airport and what's the most cost-effective way to build the airport. So how do we know how much the airport costs to build? We don't. Nobody in Dominica can tell you how much it costs to build an international airport because no tender documents have been produced. That is absurd. You're not even building. If you were building a house in your community, you would contact 2 or 3 builders. You'll get an engineer and architect, and you'll put forward some designs, and you would look at the cost of building the house. You would compare the cost, you would compare the designs, and you get an idea about how much you're spending before you start, and then you would employ the necessary people to do it on time and within budget. As a matter of fact, the bank wouldn't even release all the funds up front. The bank would release funds in stages to ensure that you're in compliance with the spending. But here you are building a $1.3 billion airport. There's been no tender. There's been no documents. There's been no parliamentary oversight. Nobody knows how much it costs to build. Nobody knows how much has been spent to date. Nobody knows how much more needs to be spent. Nobody knows how many jobs it's intended to create. Nobody knows what are the benefits and the potential setbacks. Nobody knows what the economic output of the airport is going to be. Nobody knows how much it's going to cost, the operational cost of the airport, and how many passengers need to land per day in order to meet those costs. Nothing. And these individuals are passing off as a government. It's absolute, and this is fine. We're just going along with this day in and day out. Construction is going on. You're taking rocks from a mountain by exploding it, and there's no planning permission. So the government doesn't even respect the laws of the country. There's no planning permission. There's no environmental impact assessment that the public can review. We don't know what the implications are for the quality of water in the communities that are connected to the river system. We don't know what the implications are for farmers in surrounding areas. We don't know what the implications are as far as the recreational use of the river. We haven't seen any documents that would justify anything that's happening, and we're just going along business as usual.
And not just that, Cabral, they are saying, and I've said, that it is selling of our citizenships now that is the main source in terms of financing of that project. So here it is in a very non-transparent manner. The government, they are selling our passports, adding people to the population without our consent, without our knowledge, that is, in terms of the details that we spoke of before. And they have given this Chinese company now this sort of free hand to come and destroy our country in the name of doing that project. So it is absurd on all fronts. And it is the Dominican people that really and truly have to put down our foot once and for all and say, enough is enough, and let us get back to the drawing board where good and accountable governance is concerned.
Has the parliament ever met to put the plans for the airport in front of the Dominican people for scrutiny?
Cabral, as I told you, brother, there is nothing in Dominica now where that project is concerned in terms of the details that the Dominican public need. All the Dominican people have been hearing is that we are engaged in the building of an international airport. And I can guarantee you, this, whatever it is happening up there, it is for Roosevelt Skerritt's own political legacy. Why the rush? 2027 supposed to be the year of another election in Dominica. And on record, they said it will finish just about that time. And so I am banking. It is that project that Roosevelt is counting on, is banking on to help steal another election on the backs of Dominica. And so that is why there's no EIA. There's no no details as to the monies. There's nothing in terms of the details that we want from this government where this project is concerned, because it is all bent on the political expediency of one man to remain on the Dominican backs, just like it is being done in all the despotic spots in all the world.
Yes, and I want to be very clear to the people listening to this program. The UPP is not opposed to Dominica having an international airport, but you have to understand the details. Public monies that belong to the people of Dominica, that should be in the treasury of Dominica, are being spent. So you need to at least know how much the project costs. You need to at least be able to monitor how much is being spent, whether you're within budget, whether you're over budget, whether factors have arisen that you did not account for, whether you have to, whether you're going to require more funds. You have to at least know whether it's environmentally sustainable. You have to at least know what are the economic implications in terms of the revenue that it'll be bringing into the country, as opposed to the expenses that it's going to cost to run and to maintain. Because the airport of this magnitude is going to cost a significant amount of money to operate. So therefore, will the government be subsidizing the airport for a period of time? And if so, what are the economic ramifications of that? So you don't want to, you need all of this information. So at the end of the exercise, you have a successful, operational, viable project. And there's nobody in the government that can tell you that this is a viable, sustainable project until they've seen the actual data. It's not a matter of what Skerritt says, or what this one says, what that one says. You have a planning department for a reason. You have laws in Dominica that have to be observed. You know, you have a very delicate ecology in Dominica because of its nature island character and its river systems and its water table and its agricultural areas. So all of these things are important to the sustainability and the lifeblood of Dominica's future. So to say that you're just going to build an airport and spend monies that nobody can account for, and nobody knows. There's never, no company has ever tendered with documents for the building of this international airport. So nobody knows how much it's costing, you know? So this government doesn't have the moral authority to continue to govern, in my opinion, but Dominicans keep electing them. So we just have to bear with, them and see where all of this is going. But it's absolutely appalling that we've reached this stage without any parliamentary oversight, you know?
True.
So
some people are part of the conversation on the social media end. And Marvin Sheldon Boland is writing here, we don't know these things because it's not, and he put that note in capitalized for emphasis, an international airport being constructed and in Wesley. Marceline Edward writes, if the journalists fail to probe, do you think Skerritt is going to divulge critical information that keeps his corrupt practices in place? And then last but not least, at least for now, Marshall Lawrence writes, this administration has had its fair share of governing. It's time for another. Your thoughts, sir, based on what you just heard? Read his writings.
Well, I've heard the speculation. I don't know how real it is. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory that the airport is actually built for other reasons besides an airport. I've heard that circulating, you know. But people are going to speculate when there's no plan, when there's no actual documents to show what you're doing, how much it's costing, and who you're engaging to do it. So people are going to speculate. And then obviously the Bosch area was once seen as a prominent potential for copper. So there's more room for speculation there. I mean, the price of copper has gone through the roof in recent years. I think it's reached an all-time high in terms of, the how much you're paying for a copper nowadays. So that lends some credibility to the speculation that it could be the copper that they're after. But we have no idea what's happening because the government hasn't been open and transparent with the country. And so as long as that's the case, you are shooting yourself in the foot and you're casting doubt about what it is that you're doing. And I would say to people that supporting this type of nonsense is that, I mean, if you're just supporting anything that this government does because you're a laborite, you're not part of a political party. You're part of a cult. You're just going along with whatever the leader says without any evidence of transparency, without any evidence of what's being proposed being actually what is done. So I mean, it's totally unacceptable, and I can't understand how we've got to this stage. So we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, some more comments here. Thank you very much, Cabral. Some more comments here from Francis. Says, where are the people to stand against this corruption? Ronald Sabrut writes here, this is what we have been asking for. Where are the plans and cost of this airport? Mali Austria writes, which airport? Airport My Foot. Let me see another comment here. Marcelin says here, this is just a big money laundering scheme in plain sight. Marvin comes back and writes, are there any regional and international agencies that must sign off on an international airport considering passenger airlines supposed to use that facility? That is a question asked by Mr. Boland here.
Yes, I believe that is the case. There's a certain international body that has to certify that the airport is built to certain specifications. I believe one of those bodies were in Dominica, and they were satisfied that the runway was coming along according to what the runway is supposed to be like. So there has been that. It's more a question of the financial aspect of the project. There's the company that's building the project, Montreal Management, is responsible for all building projects under the CBI, which in of itself raises red flags because it means that there's been no tender for those projects, which is part of the legal requirement in Dominica that public funds that are being spent need to be tendered for. So you need to have various entities competing for projects so that you can get the best, most bang for buck in terms of value for money. So we don't know if we're getting value for money. We don't even know how much it costs. We don't know what the cost of the airport is because there's been no breakdown of the cost. There's been for the longest while, there's been no leader of the opposition. So perhaps that's the reason why there's been no parliamentary sitting to address the issue. But now that we do have a leader of the opposition, I would expect her to be at the forefront of raising these issues. And, if she's going to be effective as a leader of the opposition, these are some of the issues that she needs to be raising as a matter of urgency.
Well, that is a whole other topic for conversation here, really, the leadership position of the opposition in Dominica. But we'll tackle that another time, most likely. Someone on the YouTube, let me just take some comments there, says here, the international airport resembles bad project management skills, and that's what happens when local laws and institutions are not involved. Comes back here and writes, every project should be approved by planning division. Look at Debois. The place is not yet approved, yet they are talking about mitigation. Some of the comments so far, Cabral, on the social media end as we continue.
Well, I would agree that the Debois situation needs to come to a stop. There's nothing to discuss there. I mean, without planning permission, without an environmental assessment report that is publicly available, those things need to be in place prior to you start demolishing an entire mountain range. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. The project needs to come to a stop, and we need to go back to the environmental assessment report. You need to go back to the Department of Planning, and then based on that analysis, we could proceed or not proceed or come up with alternative plans from there. But you can't start dynamiting a mountain without these things in place. That is ridiculous. Dominica is the nature island of the Caribbean. That is what we have. That is what we offer into the world. Beautiful mountain, clean water, the kind of environment that the world is moving towards. The world is moving against this type of environmental degradation. The one place that is supposed to preserve the environment and be a magnet to attract persons that want natural beauty is Dominica. And here we are in plain sight destroying it. It's unacceptable. And the debauch situation, I agree with those that have put their safety at risk, like Nasia Fountain and IP and Andy Edwards and others that have said that this thing has to stop. We need to stop and reevaluate before moving any further with that project. There's no negotiations about that. The debauch, degradation of the environment needs to stop immediately, and then it could recommence once the issues are addressed. That is the situation. It's not something that needs to be debated any further. The project needs to stop.
Yeah, true. Ned Packet is making a comment here, all important one. He asked the all important question: where is the business plan for the airport? What's the overall vision and strategy to ensure that this venture is successful? What about markets for export? Is this international airport only for travelers? These are some of the questions that Ned Packet is asking here. What about cargo and logistics? It's like Dominica do not care about anything, or Dominicans do not care about anything. I am convinced, he says, this is indeed another money laundering scheme, just like the hotels that are being built.
Well, I absolutely agree with Ned Packet. And all of the questions that he raised, perfectly reasonable, legitimate questions. Those are the first questions you would expect anybody to ask if you're spending $1.3 billion on an airport. But all of the answers should be on a website, on a government website, where you go on the website and you click on it, the economic assessment report, and all of the answers should be there. All of these issues should have been addressed prior to construction. That is the issue. So you don't know the answer to those questions, Ned Packet. You don't know what Ned Packet is talking about in a nutshell is the economic viability of the airport. Just because you did an assessment, an economic evaluation of the airport in 1979, certainly you can't be using the 1979 economic assessment to build an airport in 2016, in 2026, sorry, right? Costs have gone up. You've had inflation. You've had all kind of changes to the cost of labor, to the cost of building materials, the traffic. The world has completely changed. So you need an up-to-date 2026 economic assessment report to address the issues raised by Ned Packet in order to ensure that the economic viability of the airport is, first of all, viable and sustainable, and will bring about the results economically that you intend for it to bring about. Otherwise, you could spend all of this money and find yourself with a white elephant and a complete waste of resources, and you've destroyed your environment in the process because you don't know what you're doing. It's the blind leading the blind. You have no reason to believe that what you're building and the results that you're going to get are sustainable because you haven't looked into it to any extent that is available to the public. So Ned Paquette asked a great question, but these things should have been answered 2 years ago with the assessment that should be publicly available for all and all to go and browse and understand, but it's not.
Yeah. Cabral, when Dominicans like yourself, myself, and others ask questions, genuine questions, Ned Packet and others, about the construction of that airport and other situations as it pertains to governance in this country, you have the naysayers who normally come around with a very callous response or situation or suggestion and says, we are anti-development. How would you respond to these people, sir?
Well, if you build an airport that destroys the environment, then that will destroy your tourism prospects. That will affect your sustainability, economic sustainability. that will affect your branding. So to actually do it in a reckless manner, I would say to them, is anti-development. It's anti-Dominica, because it changes the character of Dominica from the nature island to a place where wanton destruction of the environment is permitted. And therefore, you no longer maintain your character as the nature island. So what is the purpose of coming to visit Dominica if individuals can just destroy it without any proper analysis or any proper assessments being done? And then secondly, absolutely, we believe that Dominica should have an international airport, but to violate the laws of Dominica to build the airport tells you that something has gone terribly wrong. The government has no moral credibility or moral authority to insist that Dominicans obey the laws of Dominica if they themselves are willing to disobey the laws of Dominica in such a reckless way that puts so many issues as far as the environment, as far as sustainability, as far as agriculture at risk. So the government has to be the main enforcer of the laws of Dominica. So if the government is not prepared to obey and respect the laws of Dominica as it pertains to development, then why should anybody else? Why should the Chinese obey the laws of Dominica? Why should anybody obey the laws of Dominica if the government who passes the laws is not prepared to obey the laws of Dominica? So you don't have a government. You have a criminal organization that is just posing as government, that has no regard for the laws of the country, the sustainability of the country. And what the framers had in mind when they put these things in place was to protect the forests and the natural environment and the water table and the agricultural viability for sustainability. That's what they had in place when they put these laws in place, and these laws are in place for a reason. And the government has no respect for its own laws. They have no respect for their own parliament. They won't even come to parliament to have a discussion or debate about the airport. They won't even insist that the funds being raised by the selling of Dominican assets are returned to the treasury of Dominica, so Dominica can benefit from that. And there's absolutely no transparency in the finances of the state. So the government has lost its moral authority to continue to govern. So until this government is removed, there's not really much hope going forward for Dominicans to be able to have confidence in the future of the country in terms of being sustainable, transparent, and governed in a way that people have come to expect in the 21st century.
Yes, indeed. Cabral, just before we switch gear to the other subject on the table in terms of matters to be discussed, Reedy's deportees. Anything else you want to say on that international airport story and the whole governance issue before we switch gears, as it were?
Yes, I just want to say that Dominica should have an international airport. I think that's what Dominicans have said. That's what Dominicans expect. All of the other countries in the region have an international airport. And there's no opposition to the international airport. The opposition is at what cost? Is it coming at the cost of the destruction of the environment? Is it coming at the cost of the sustainability of our rivers and lakes and mountains and beauty and nature island character that is part of our branding and what the world has become to appreciate us for, and our way of life as well? Because some of the persons that were on the site protesting were saying that as children, they were used to going to those Pegwa River and bathing, and that was part of their livelihood. That was part of their way of life. So if the silt in the rivers is preventing them from doing that, then that's going to be a huge adjustment for them not to be able to enjoy clean water. And so we're not saying that it cannot be done. We're saying that we need to see the experts. The experts need to come together and do the research and produce the assessment that is made public, and we know what the risks are. And once we know what the risks are, then we can mitigate against those risks in the building project so that you maintain a balance of development on the one hand and maintaining your nature island character on the other. And both are equally important.
Yeah, true. Cabral, just before we switch gear to the deportee situation pending on Dominican soil pretty soon, We are talking about the international airport now. We have been talking about the lack of details, the lack of transparency as it relates to this government, especially Roosevelt Skerrit as prime minister of this country. There are other basic matters that this brother has not come up to scratch with yet in terms of being truthful and honest to the Dominican public, Other basic matters. And right. I can cite two as we speak. There's the situation with the rent that Roosevelt Skerrit entered into as per cabinet decision in October of 2020, whereby he promised the nation as prime minister, after that 2-year contract would have been ended, he would be no longer renewing it, relieving the Dominican public of the monies, the huge chunk of the tax-paying dollars that goes towards paying his rent in terms of accommodation. And I'm quoting here now, in moving quickly, I'm quoting here from the DNO article. Persons can look it up themselves. It's entitled, Skerrit promises not to renew 2-year lease for rented residents. And that communication was entered on Tuesday, October 6, 2020. It says here, and I'll just be reading a brief part of it so that we could get the sense of it. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has assured, and that was in October of 2020, people. We are now in January of 2026. That is 6 years ago, Cabral.
Wow, 6 years, wow.
Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has assured opponents of his $32,000 rental property in Mont Daniel that the lease will not be renewed at the end of the 2-year contract. Dissent brewed over a decision taken by the Cabinet of Dominica on June 2020 to approve a monthly $32,000 for Mercury property management development for the Prime Minister and his family. Leader of the opposition, Lennox Linton, was among many who strongly condemned the hefty approval and had written to Skerrit demanding immediate revocation. Organizations such as the CCM then and other political parties, the Dominican Freedom Party, were expressing their dissatisfaction over Cabinet's decision. Here's the kicker. In his closing arguments of 2020-2021 budget, in August of 2020, the country's leader defended the approval of such funds. However, exactly 2 months later, the Prime Minister appears to have had a change of heart. He said then on his annual Parley program, October 4th, open quote, so the issue of the 32,000 will not be an issue no more. These were Skerrit's words. He said, I continue, at the end of the 2 years, you will certainly see an end to this list and it will not be extended. I am making every effort to make accommodation for myself as a private citizen and my family as private citizens, and that is my simple response to this. And the situation continues in terms of his lengthy response and his promises. Let me just read another quote here. He says, I felt that it was not the right time to proceed with building a residence for the Prime Minister while the rest of the country and many citizens were homeless. I went to Cabinet and I said to them that we need to defer the commencement of a construction and put on hold and give preference to providing shelter to the citizens, he said. The Prime Minister continues, but there's a sense that if we had gone to build it, that is a residence for the Prime Minister, the same people who are saying that you should have built it would have been the same people who would have been saying, oh, look, Skerrit built a residence for himself, and he goes on and on and on. Finally, the final paragraph says, he revealed that the Cabinet subcommittee has been appointed to review the official dwelling of the Prime Minister. So, Cabral, listening public, I say all that to say, here it is, 6 years on, Roosevelt Scary told us in 2021 as prime minister, not as a Joe Blow, not as a person that was in a bar drinking some rum and he was under influence. He forgot what he was saying. It's not that. If you cannot take a prime minister's word as gold, Cabral, who else word in the country should you be able to take? And so he told us, he assured us through that communique, after the 2 years, that would be just about September in 2022, he would no longer have that hefty fine imposed on the Dominican public as per his dwelling accommodation. Here it is. 4 years thereafter, this man is comfortably living in what some people say now, it is his own house. And we are paying it is 70,000, just call it. That 32,000 is a sham. It was made public. It is $64,000. That is that exorbitant tax on the Dominican people every month for him and his family and whoever else to enjoy. So that is one occasion, a very simple scenario whereby Roosevelt's carrot was very economical, that is, with the truth to the Dominican public, as per that tax, that heavy tax that the Dominican public continue to suffer under. And a lot of Dominicans could do well with at least $2,000 a month from that 64 to make ends meet. Here it is, Douglas. We have a building in town. That's a second scenario. We have presently a building in town, in the center of town, the heart of the city, opposite the National Credit Union in Roseau. That building was built about 2 or 3 years ago under construction. It was done about 1 year ago. So that building is now sitting in Roseau, unoccupied. When a journalist from DBS posed the question to Roosevelt Skerrit as to who is the rightful owner or owners of this property, this brother went on a tirade on this young journalist and basically blew up, but out of control. After that young lady asked him a very simple question in the interest of transparency that we spoke of and in the interest of the Dominican people. Cabral, in your right mind, would you come to Dominica or go anywhere in the world and invest at least $2 million plus in a property? And when that property is all done, you choose to have it unoccupied for a year and counting? Would you do that, Cabral?
Well, no, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think this is a reflection. You see, this is starting to become a reflection on the party, not just the individual, because you have a bunch of enablers in the party that are signing off on all of this nonsense. The party needs to search their conscience and take a stand and say, look, Chief, it's time for you to step down. You've ran your race. It's been long enough, and the writing is on the wall. And the executive of the party needs to say to Roosevelt Skerrit that it's time for you to step down and pave the way for the party to continue because of all the baggage that you've left behind, because these issues are not going away. They will be investigated, right? Long after Skerrit has left office, they'll be investigated. The missing CBI funds is being investigated. It's already before the court. There's no escaping these things. So Roosevelt Skerrit is now doing things that are going to have a lasting impact on the credibility of the Dominica Labor Party. And it's not necessarily the Dominica Labor Party that's responsible for these deeds. It's the individual. So the Dominica Labor Party executive need to find the gumption and the courage to be honest and search their conscience and insist that Roosevelt Skerrit be removed as its leader, because he's now in the process of bringing the party down. And that's not a problem for us, of course, in the UPP. That's not a problem for us in the opposition. But in terms of Roosevelt Skerrit, he's lost it. He's lost the moral authority. He's lost the credibility. there's nothing that he says that anybody can believe. You cannot even believe him when he says he's going to relieve the taxpayer of the burden of his residence. You can't believe anything the man says. He will look at you straight in the face and tell you the exact opposite of what the truth is and have no scruples about it, right? So where's the church? He has no, where's the morality there? There's no morality. There's no moral authority. In order to be a leader and to command the respect of those that you're leading, you have to have some sort of moral authority that what you say is bond. Your word is bond. He's lost the moral authority, right? The finances of the country are unknown only to him and his friends. So the country is falling down a precipice of degradation and corruption. It's in plain sight, not speculative. It's right there for everybody to see. And we have a leader that refuses to relinquish the leadership so the country can recover and put the country back on a path of good governance and transparency and parliamentary democracy. So the task of the next government coming into power is humongous because we've strayed so far away from what the country is accustomed to as far as checks and balances, and to be able to hold leaders and ministries and individuals accountable for the finances of the country, and in terms of having the moral authority to continue to lead. So the country has gone far down this precipice, and the new government that comes into play has got an enormous challenge to bring things back to where they should be going into the future. And the sooner that task can start, the better for the country, the better for the citizens of the country to be able to regain what has been lost. And hopefully that process could start sooner rather than later.
True. I agree with you 110%. But yeah, Cabral, let us switch gear now in terms of the deportees soon to be on Dominican shore and in some other countries, on some other country shore. What are your thoughts first and foremost of this MOU that was signed by these prime ministers, including our own, and not making the details again, lack of transparency of that MOU, read these deportees, to open and above board to the people of the various countries?
Well, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it goes back to not being able to believe the leader. Roosevelt Skerritt came out and said in a press conference that he signed an agreement.
Are you there, Cabral? We have a slight glitch here. All right, folks.
Hello?
Yes. Are you there? Yes.
Okay.
There was a slight glitch. Yes.
Yes, I was just saying, you can't believe anything the prime minister says. He came out in a press conference and he said he signed an agreement to bring deportees from America into Dominica. That's what he said in the press conference. Then he came out and he said,
and stick up in the Cabral. Let me just interrupt you there politely. That is, Roosevelt Skerritt was forced to come out that Monday when he came out in that press conference with that information. Because I have been monitoring the Antigua and Barbuda situation, and it was made known over there in terms of a whistleblower through the mouth of Mr. Jamal Pringle, I believe, who is now the leader of the opposition party, the UPP in Antigua and Barbuda, who brought that information out to the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
I see.
And so, what's his name? Gaston Brown had no choice. Once that was out in the open, he was cornered and came to the people of Antigua and Barbuda and basically told them exactly some of the details that Jamal was talking about. And so Roosevelt and Skerritt did that same signing of the MOU, I am presuming now, at the same time. So when he heard that over there being mentioned in the public domain in Antigua and Barbuda, he knew it was coming to our shores. So he had no choice but to come in a very deceptive way now and tell the Dominican public what he told them then. So I just thought I'd put that there.
Well, you see, he doesn't want to say anything because he knows that his policies and programs have brought hardship to the people of Dominica. So he doesn't want to come out and admit it. But he said that he signed the MOU at the first, he said that he signed an agreement. He used the word agreement at the first press conference. At the second press conference, He said he signed a memorandum of understanding, which is not a legally binding agreement per se. So there's some ambiguity as to what he signed, what he said he signed in the first press conference, and he led people to believe that he signed a framework to come to an agreement at a future date, which is a memorandum of understanding at the second press conference. And then he finished the press conference by saying that under the agreement, there's a possibility that no refugees will even come to Dominica. It's just a backstop U.S. policy position in case. So we don't have to worry because there's a reasonable chance that no refugees would even come to Dominica. And then he says that that, I mean, if you look at all the statements that he made, all of them are contradicting each other, right? Because we haven't seen any documentation as to what has actually been signed. So we have no idea what is signed. We have no idea what the motivations are, because Roosevelt Skerritt continues to use deception to try and confuse and to try and deceive the people of Dominica as far as what is actually happening. We don't know what is happening. So I think it's a good idea for the opposition to establish a direct line of communication with Washington so that they can be part of the team of individuals that's involved in the discussions with the State Department so that we can, work towards clarifying the situation and being transparent with Dominicans. And of course, if any such agreement, and the other thing he said was that he was asked at the press conference whether they're refugees or whether they're deportees, and he said he could use the words interchangeably when in fact we can't. A deportee is not a refugee.
And again, Douglas, that was a move to deceive, because he knows that.
Just pure deception. A deportee is somebody who is fleeing their country because of war, because of conflict, because of persecution, and they come to a neighboring country to seek asylum as a refugee. Normally, they will get a hearing to prove their status as a refugee. And once they are established as a refugee, they have certain rights under various international instruments like the Convention of Civil and Political Rights, the UN Convention, and other international instruments. So they have to be treated in a certain way. They have the right to work, and they have the right to claim asylum and go on a pathway towards some type of citizenship. These people are not necessarily criminals. They're just an unfortunate situation and they can't go back to their country. So we need to provide a safe haven for them and show some type of humanity towards them. That's a refugee. Now, on the question of a deportee is somebody in the country who maybe they're in the country illegally, or maybe which in of itself is a criminal offense. Illegal immigration is a criminal offense. So if you're in a country illegally, if you're in the United States illegally, you are actually committing an offense, and upon which the government deserves the right to deport you back to your country. You could be a criminal who has been convicted of a crime, and part of the remedy after you've been convicted is to deport you back to your country. So a deportee is someone who usually has some sort of criminal background. It may not be a serious crime. It could be a misdemeanor, or it could be an indictable offense, but there's a criminal character to those that you're deporting from the country. You could be a drug dealer, you could be a felon, you could be a murderer. We don't know who these people are. So it's important to make the distinction as to whether we're accepting deportees or we're accepting refugees. But the Prime Minister of Dominica, it says that you could use both of them interchangeably, which is incorrect. It's patently wrong. You're sending out misinformation. It's fake news, Mr. Prime Minister. So you got to become clean and tell the Dominicans what it is that you signed. Are you accepting deportees? Are you accepting refugees? How many are you accepting? Are you receiving funds from the American government per deportee or refugee? How much funds are you receiving? What are the plans and programs that are in place to integrate these deportees or refugees into Dominican society in terms of housing, in terms of public services, in terms of schooling for the children? Do we have the right to choose the individuals that are coming into the country, or are they being imposed on us by Washington? There's a number of issues that would have to be addressed, including what amendments need to be made to the immigration laws of Dominica to grant citizenship to these people. So is it similar to a transaction like we're selling a passport? These people come in, government of America pays us a fee, and then we grant these people passports? Is it as simple as that, or is it something different? So we need to understand the ramifications of who these people are, how we plan to integrate them into Dominican society, what is their background, do they have a criminal record, and so forth. We don't know any of that information, okay? And we need to know the numbers, because of course Dominica, compared to some of the other countries that may be willing to accept refugees or deportees, has a very small population. So because of the fact that Dominica has a small population, the integration of large numbers of foreigners who may speak a different language, who may practice a different religion, who may have a different way of life, could have social implications for the country. But at the same token, we as Dominicans are very hospitable people, and we welcome people to our shores all the time. So it's not that we do not want any foreigners coming into Dominica. Dominica's population needs to grow. So there are ways and means the government can go about giving people incentives to come to Dominica to do business. But every government, immigration department, has immigration policies where they provide incentives for investors to come to the country, whether it's in terms of whether the investors are direct foreign investors in terms of tax breaks or whatever the case is, to come to the country, to invest in the country, to make a positive contribution to the country. Okay, so the government has to be the one to set the policy framework in place to achieve the growth in the population that they so desire, as opposed to just having the Americans say, okay, here's some deportees and some refugees that we're going to force you to take as a bargaining chip so that we could lift visa restrictions, which appears to be what's taking place here. So the government, of course, needs to come clean. They need to tell Dominicans what they signed, and it needs to go before the parliament to make the necessary amendments to the immigration policies, so that Dominicans can be aware and prepared for the influx of persons and being able to screen these individuals before they're approved to come into the country. So at the end of the day, we're talking about the same issue that we've been talking about, which is, unfortunately, that the government refuses to be transparent with the people of Dominica, so the Dominicans can't have any expectations as to what's going to take place, which just makes matters more and more confusing.
True. Yeah. Believe it or not, it's already 8 o'clock, so we have to wind down in just a bit, Cabral. But just to stretch a point that you made, in terms of the deceptiveness in terms of utterances and tone of our Prime Minister, you said a while ago, which is rightly so, Dominicans are very welcoming people by nature. And so here it is again in this press conference. He basically said that he touched on the humanitarian side of things when he referred to these people, these deportees, as refugees, and talked about we are lending our hand as it pertains to international obligations as per refugees, but not realizing or not telling the Dominican public the real deal that we are about to accept deportees. So just a question to you, Brother Douglas, you're a lawyer. What is the situation that a deportee may be encountering in terms of difficulty by not being able to go back to his country of origin? Just to sort of put it in context, yes. Thereby, they must seek refuge in a third country.
Yes, I know that President Donald Trump has been reaching out to countries to accept deportees, right? So in third countries. So that could be what is happening here. And maybe the government doesn't want to say that it's deportees because of the criminal character associated with deportees. So you might be, you don't want to announce that you're accepting deportees, because if those persons, some of those persons happen to be criminals, then obviously it's going to have a negative ramification within the Dominican society. And you want to be in a position to reject people with criminal records, and not necessarily all criminals are violent criminals. They could be people that overstayed their visa, or they could be people that entered into the country illegally. They could be people with misdemeanors. They don't necessarily have to be violent criminals, but as an immigration department, you want to have control over your borders and the criteria under which people are being allowed to enter your country and be given citizenship. So, I feel as though that issue is important, and until the government comes clean and tell us exactly what's going on, we're kind of left in the dark about what they're actually doing. And so we need to continue to keep the pressure on them to come clean about what's actually happening, so that Dominicans can be prepared to, and not left in the dark just because of Skerritt wanted to deceive people. I think he has a natural inclination towards deception for some reason.
Yeah, but the question I ask you, though, that I really want you to do zeroing on in terms of a response. Why would a deportee, say from the United States, where we were speaking United States, would find it difficult sending a deportee back to, let us say, I am saying now, let's say any country, I don't stereotype. That person is from country X, they came to the United States, they did whatever crime, they paid their time. But why would now the US find difficulty in sending them back to their country of origin, and is now prepared to go the other route to take them, or to try to accept them in another country?
Well, it could be on human rights grounds. For example, maybe that person is facing persecution in their home country, and there are various human rights conventions that would prevent them from being sent back there. There's something that they're concerned about in their home country, why they would not be able to be sent back to their home country. Because ideally, you would want to send a deportee back to the country where they came from. But if, for example, they're persecuted in that country, or there's a bounty on them in that country, or the country is unsafe, or the country is war-torn, there are various conventions that would prevent you to send them back to a dangerous situation, right? So that could be the reason why they want to find a third country, so that they can provide a safe. They don't want them in the United States, obviously, but at the same time, they're obligated under international law to provide a safe haven for those individuals. So maybe they're looking at third-party countries, and Dominica may be one of those countries that they're considering.
Okay. So next question. Read that question. Is it the situation whereby the country doing the deporting would have all the say as to assigning them to a third country, or that deportee would have some kind of say as well as to where they go?
No. I don't believe that the deportee themselves would have any much say in the matter. It would be the country that would decide where they go. And the receiving country, of course, the receiving country as a sovereign country will obviously have to agree that they're prepared to accept that individual. So no deportee can come to Dominica without the government of Dominica accepting or agreeing in advance that individual can come to Dominica, because but of course the U.S. would have a more powerful bargaining position to pressure these smaller countries, especially now with the visa restrictions that are imposed. So these countries like Dominica would be seeking to gain favor with the United States to have the visa restrictions lifted. And then the indictment of Maduro is also another factor that could come into play, because the indictments did state explicitly that there were leaders in the Caribbean that facilitated the narco trafficking of drugs into the United States. So those leaders know who they are, and they would also be trying to build up some sort of favor with the United States, so as not to be included or involved in the criminal prosecution that's due to take place later this year of Nicolas Maduro. Everybody knows Roosevelt Skerritt and Nicolas Maduro were probably the closest of allies in the region. Everybody knows that Roosevelt Scarrett government was the first to become a signatory to ALBA and persuaded other governments to do likewise. So there's an uncomfortable situation there with Roosevelt Scarrett and Maduro, who obviously was apprehended from his country as the president and taken into custody in the United States. And his biggest cheerleader in the region is Roosevelt Scarrett. There's no denying that. So there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of factors as to why Caribbean leaders would be so eager to get on board with this MOU with the United States and to cooperate with the United States, because they want to be seen as cooperative in the event that indictments come their way, because apparently third-party countries were needed to facilitate the trafficking of drugs from Venezuela into the United States. We don't know any more about that. That will be revealed as time goes on and as the court case of Nicolas Maduro proceeds through the court system in the United States. But Roosevelt Scarrett is somebody who had a very close relationship with Nicolas Maduro over the years, and so it's safe to so some may be wondering whether or not he had any involvement in the drug trafficking into the United States, and whether or not that's something that the Americans could be watching. Nobody knows. It's just something that it's kind of like the elephant in the room, if you will.
So basically, we are looking at a situation like a Pandora's box is about to be opened up as these investigations and trial continue in the U.S. where Maduro is concerned.
Absolutely. So that's the case that everybody in the region would have a very keen interest in following, and the implications for the region obviously are tremendous, because countries have been forced to take a position as to whether or not they support Maduro, or whether because in the case of Maduro being apprehended, the argument in international law is that Venezuela is a sovereign state, and the United States has no right to go into a sovereign state and essentially, quote unquote, kidnap the president. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, the opposition in Venezuela has been saying that he lost the election quite convincingly, and he's not a legitimate president, and his persecution of the opposition inside of Venezuela has caused many political prisoners, which have been released. All of the political prisoners in Venezuela have been released since his apprehension, and millions of Venezuelans have been forced to flee Venezuela under Nicolas Maduro. So whether or not under those peculiar circumstances, the U.S. may have been justified in their action. So that's the argument. You could look at it both ways depending on where your allegiances are. But what I think it was shocking for Caribbean leaders to see how far President Trump was willing to go to apprehend Maduro. So now they realize that, hey, diplomatic immunity didn't protect Maduro. So perhaps diplomatic immunity will not protect us if we may be seen to be involved in any nefarious activity. So now it's time to choose sides. And because of the display of power that the Americans have shown, I think most in the Caribbean would now be trying to realign themselves with the United States, as opposed to Venezuela and even Cuba, because Cuba now, the United States made a very clear statement that Cuba could be, because Cuba has been cut off from all oil products from Venezuela, so Cuba is under pressure as well. So those countries that are aligned with Venezuela are under pressure, and Dominica is, a key country when it comes to countries being aligned with Venezuela. So they're under pressure to realign themselves with the United States. So those are the geopolitical factors that are being played out as well.
Yeah. Final question to you, sir, before you leave here. There's the word coming from the different prime ministers in the region that they are very careful in terms of the criminal nature of these deportees. They will be entering into agreement with none of these countries, these leaders, for example, Donald Trump or others who may be trying to impose a third party or deportees from a third country. And so how can that be guaranteed? How would you think that would be guaranteed by our leaders in the region as to they not accepting deportees with criminal records as per their utterances?
Well, They don't have to accept anybody that they don't
Mhm.
feel comfortable with. But like I said, the United States, because of their display of power that we just witnessed, and because of the fact that they've imposed these visa restrictions, we can't. The leaders in the region are kind of cornered into a corner now where they have to comply. You know, because Donald Trump is somewhat of a person who puts you into a corner and force you to comply with his wishes, and that's what's being displayed here. So CARICOM as a regional body would be much better off coming together and putting forward a joint position, so that you have a strength in numbers, but you know, different leaders. But it just so happens that coincidentally, while all of this was playing out, CARICOM was having a number of internal issues. We saw Camilla Basat-Pasesha say that CARICOM was an unreliable partner. You saw the dispute going on between Gaston Brown and Camilla Basat-Pasesha. You didn't hear any joint position coming out as far as the buildup of military assets in the region when it was taking place. And so now it's kind of every country for itself. You know, the whole CARICOM as a joint, you know, bloc that has, you know, power to, you know, negotiate on behalf of the region has been weakened. You know, so because of that, countries are fending for themselves, and because of the visa restrictions, their negotiating position has been weakened, and some of the leaders are vulnerable as well. That further weakens the position of CARICOM. So CARICOM is so countries are negotiating from a position of weakness as opposed to a collective position of relative strength. So so that's the situation as well. You know.
Sure. Gabriel, there's much more to be said, but I want to thank you for the time spent here with us, the 2 hours that basically just flew by in terms of your invaluable contribution to the program here this evening. I want to thank you very much. Any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, I just want to thank you for inviting me on the program, and just want to say to Dominicans to remember to log on to the UPP website. We're looking to engage Dominicans of all walks of life throughout the length and breadth of the country, particularly young people. The party is looking for young candidates to stand for next general elections, like Mr. Lumil has demonstrated last week from Petit Savan. We're looking for others to follow in his footsteps and to express to us what is their views on these issues and other issues that pertain to them personally, their future, their aspirations, and what the party could be doing to assist and to facilitate them to achieve their objectives, because that's what politics is all about. Those of you who haven't been confirmed, you know, please do so. If you're having any difficulties doing so, you can contact the party. You can reach out. And like I said, Joshua Francis, who is the leader of the party and the president and the founder, has a track record of representing people, assisting people. That's why he's in this. He doesn't need to be doing this. He's doing this in the interest of the community. So feel free to reach out personally. He's very personal. He loves people. He loves to connect with people and understand what their plight is. So please reach out. Feel free. Don't be a stranger. Contact us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to engage you. And let's unite. You know, let's come together. I invite laborites who are dissatisfied to come on board. We invite UWPites who are dissatisfied to come on board, or even UWPites who are satisfied with the UWP, to discuss strategies and common positions that we could collaborate on. We're looking to collaborate with Dominicans. We're looking to unite. You know, Dominican has to unite. It doesn't matter what traditional allegiances that you have. Let's unite, let's come together, and let's provide the opportunity so that Dominica and Dominicans can reach their full potential. That's both Dominicans living in Dominica and those abroad like myself. So thank you very much, Lofty. I appreciate the invitation, and I really enjoyed spending some time with you today.
All right, Brother Douglas, thank you very much. We'll keep that communication line open, and if needs be, we will have some other discussion next time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, boss.
All right, indeed. Folks, that is it for us here, talking about Unite. Let's do this from Nasio. Let's do this one, Unite from Nasio, and then we'll be gone in just a bit.
We've got to unite. We've got to unite. Come on, people. Say we've got to unite. Brother and sister, say we've got to unite. Why can't we
Brother Douglas suggested a good note for us to end on and read the unification effort. Hence, we're playing this one from Nasio entitled Unite.
Get we unite. Why, get we unite. Lord, united we stand. So divided we fall. We must unite. Double these walls, Lord. 400 years divided too long. We must unite if we must be strong.
A powerful line, we must unite if we want to be strong.
I look around, I see my people suffer.
We must unite if we want to be strong.
I seem to feel the pain.
Thank you very much, Dominicans, for your eyes and ears each and every time. That is how we want to bring a wrap to this evening's program.
Get we united, Lord. Wow.
The 18th day of January 2026.
Why,
We want to thank our guests very much indeed, who made the sacrifice being a number of hours ahead of us. It's what it's about 10 a.m. his time. Monday morning, that is.
we've got to unite.
Brother Cabral Douglas, a very patriotic brother indeed.
Say we've got to unite. Get yourself together. Say we've got to unite.
Those of you on the YouTube with us, the social media and Facebook as well, good evening to you guys.
Why,
Again, on behalf of Alvin Thomas, who was not here with us tonight, we want to apologize. But most likely, if the good Lord above is willing, he will be back next week in the flesh. So yes, that is it for us here for yet another program.
We'll open a gap. Forcing on fighting. You only keep us up.
That is how we do it each and every Sunday from 6 o'clock.
Years.
Bringing you the much needed and up-to-date information as it relates to country.
So we can be strong. Whoa, 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 whoa. Every time
The struggle is real, people.
I see my people suffer. Every time
But we have to continue trotting on.
feel the pain, why can't we unite? Yes, we unite.
As I mentioned earlier in the program, the United Progressive Party will be having a block meeting come this week, somewhere in the Goodwill area. That is in the Roseau North constituency. As we continue to engage the people on the ground, our country, Dominica, and its betterment. So more details to come, this all-important engagement. We ask for your support in more ways than one. Thank you very much. So on behalf of the hard-working staff members at Civic Vibes, see you guys next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye. I love you.
Can't we unite? Come together. Why can't we unite? Why, can't we unite? Lord, harder than the root. We'll open a gap.